The Kurds are an ethnic group from the Middle East. They inhabit parts of Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria. As the 20th century began, many Kurds began thinking about the creation of land of their own, usually called Kurdistan. Shortly after the end of World War I, the Western Allies proposed the creation of a Kurdish state in 1920, in a treaty known as the Treaty of Sevres. In 1923, the Kurdish hopes were destroyed when the Treaty of Lausanne set the boundaries for Turkish land and did not take the Kurds into consideration. Since then, the Kurds have tried many times to begin an independent state, but were always stopped with violence. After the end of World War II, they were not granted their independent state and are still searching for it. Kurds are stateless, which means they are not considered to be citizens of any state. Kurds in Iraq. Iraq's population is made up of 15–20% of the Kurds. The Kurds that live there face harsh oppression, however, have more rights than Kurds in other countries. Kurdistan Democratic Party, or KDP, was created in 1946 by Mustafa Barzani in order to fight for independence in Iraq. However, 15 years later, faced a full armed struggle. Kurds in Iran. The Kurds have sought refuge in various countries. One of them includes Iran. Inside the country, there is 8.2 to 12 million Kurds. The government started sending citizens to places with more Kurds, mostly around the city of Kirkuk, since it was an oil-rich city, which ended up displacing the Kurds in the late 1970s. During the Iran-Iraq War, the Kurds were helping the Islamic Republic. The government decided to rush the policy. In the Iraqi government of Saddam Hussein in 1988, he attacked the Kurds by setting a chemical attack in the city of Halabja. 5,000 people were killed and 10,000 were injured.
Kurds in Syria. Since 2015, the Kurds have established control on Syrian territory that borders Turkey, driving ISIS out of its territory. The Kurds accomplished that since they were fighting under Syrian Democratic Forces and Arab militias. The Kurds are affected by statelessness. Statelessness is when a group or society is unable to live in a state. The Kurds have been trying to inhabit and generate their own state. However, they have been turned down and were discarded from almost 100 years. They have been oppressed by the countries they inhabit, especially Turkey, since the founder of modern Turkey tried expelling the Kurds out of the country by making it illegal for them to speak their own language and consequently abolishing their culture. The Kurds have been fighting the seemingly endless war and are still trying to become independent to this day. The Kurds have been fighting for independence and have fought back against many countries that have oppressed them, such as Turkey, Iran, and Iraq. Their culture has been ignored and disregarded in many countries, but they still prevail by fighting a legal battle for independence with the help of United Nations, UN. The group has been oppressed since they first tried to obtain the land they believe is theirs. More specifically, the group has been facing two types of oppression: marginalization, which is the act of confining a group of people to an outer limit or edge of society, in this case, the countries they live in. The second type of oppression they face is violence, which they face every time they try to form an independent state, or now, due to the involvement in the Syrian war. The oppression upon the Kurds have been coming from the entire world. Even though most countries do not have a direct involvement in the conflict they face, the group believes that they're being oppressed by these other countries due to the lack of involvement in the conflict. This is especially after the violent conflict in Turkey 2016, where the Turkish military destroyed Kurdish homes, arrested Kurds, and used extreme violence.
The Kurds have not been granted 11 human rights. Articles 1, 2, 3, 7, 13, 14, 15, 17, 21, 25, and 28. However, there are some which stand out the most. These articles are 17 and 21. Article 17 states that the ownership of land, which the Kurds clearly don't have since they have been denied a country to them. Another article that is violated is Article 21, that states that everyone has a right to take part in their country's government. However, that is impossible since they are not part of any country.
I see Kurdistan as a soccer field, independence as a ball, plump with air. From the beginning of our existence, running has been our destiny, has been destined, this constant motion, for the ball to fly and for us to chase it. Whenever the ball comes to us, we go mad. With all our strengths, we kick it away. Why be afraid of a graveyard? At least in that land, silent as a weighing scale, I can settle in a little house of my own that will let me forget the migration from warren to warren. A little house for which I will never pay rent. for which no one will ever ask me to return the key, who ask me relentlessly, where can I get my freedom? How my tongue, a leaf of muscle, a helpless silver of meat, could rip it out. The curtains of Pharaoh's palace, how I could fearlessly pass through barbed wire, for a land of thorns, which thorn or crown backs you ask, whose pockets were you cut from, you ask. Go easy, let me tell you. When my poverty is a coffer always full, when my homelessness is a skyscraper, when insomnia's bed is warm, and across the four seasons, my vineyard's griefs grow so juicy and full. The United Nations are trying to intervene, however, only with one government, Iraq's. The UN offered a formal split from Baghdad to form an autonomous Kurdish region. 93% of Iraqi Kurds which participated in the referendum voted for independence. However, the Prime Minister, Haidar al-Abadi, cancelled the referendum and the votes. There are many possible solutions for this problem. For example, uniting the Arabs, Iranians, and Turks, creating a Muslim state which includes Kurdistan. For many, this is the ideal solution. However, realistically, it's not likely to happen due to many governmental issues. Therefore, the UN is trying to intervene and to create solutions. But this solution is very complex and involves developing countries, economies, and territories. There are various ways you can help the Kurds. You should speak up on social media. Put your feelings and emotions towards a cause. It is a really good way to generate awareness of the topic. Another way you can help is reaching out. Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria do not show any effort to help the Kurds, so you can write a letter and send it to the country's embassy. Also be aware for the Call to Action campaign. This is a campaign which fights for the rights of the Kurds. You can also try different ways of contacting the UN, the Red Cross, or even your own country.